And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. Now, the Sussexes have been on a relentless charm offensive in America, embracing all the woke mumbo-jumbo that Hollywood has to offer. But in a rock-bottom moment, the X-rated US satire South Park has teased an episode fittingly named World Privacy Tour, and the ex-royals get truly roasted. Look. So with the PR campaign not exactly going to plan, the couple are on the lookout for the next money-making scheme. And it's now been uncovered that they're working with one of Hollywood's top venture capitalists, Adam Lilleen, who specialises in introducing celebs to business startups. According to Page Six, Lilleen first met the Sussexes through the chat show host and one of his other clients, Ellen DeGeneres. And in an unconfirmed rumour, Meghan Markle is also alleged to have met with Gordon Getty, the American billionaire and son of oil tycoon J. Paul Getty. Well, I'm delighted to be joined now by Meghan Markle's biographer, Tom Bower. So, Tom, you look at that South Park clip, the Sussexes have become exactly what they never wanted. They're now a punchline in America, even amongst the liberal American media. But it hasn't stopped their money-making drive, which actually seems to be ratcheting up a notch. What's going on?
Well, I think their priority is earning money. But the veneer is always charity. They pretend always that they are philanthropists. They're eager to hand out cash to people who need it. But it's very noticeable that when Harry said he was going to give a large chunk of his advance on his sensational book to charity, it's now just a little bit, and he hasn't quantified it. So I think they're keeping the money, but parading themselves as philanthropists and people who are anxious to help the downtrodden. But, of course, the one most important downtrodden are they themselves.
Because the most cynical thing about these business advisors, who they seem to have signed up with, is that their whole raison d'etre is to say, we're going to make you look like you're charitable, but actually we're going to make you very rich at the same time. It's deeply cynical, Tom.
Well, it's cynical, as was the whole departure from Britain, and is the whole of this, the Netflix series and the book, I'm the victim, when in fact they're the aggressors. And, you know, in truth, what we're seeing is an extraordinary marketing campaign by Meghan, whose number one interest is herself, and the second interest is money. And the question is, how will she make a lot of money in a short period of time in the end to make sure she doesn't need always to parade herself as the victim of the royal family? She's always looking for other business opportunities. And what's interesting is the people she goes to. Who is going to maximise Meghan's popularity? Who's going to make her really big and very rich? And she's, I think, very shrewd and clever in that. She's always looking for opportunities and for people who can help her. Now, Harry undoubtedly was one step, but will she keep Harry for long? Perhaps Harry will become redundant to her ambitions in the near future. Who knows?
Power, money, and manipulation. The Hollywood reinvention of Meghan Markle. She's back. And this time she's not aiming for charity or compassion. Meghan Markle has officially entered the high-stakes world of venture capitalism. Teaming up with some of Hollywood's most powerful investors, the Duchess of Sussex seems determined to redefine her image, her influence, and her bank account. But as royal author Tom Bower points out, this latest move might not be a reinvention. It might be desperation disguised as ambition. According to reports, Meghan has aligned herself with one of Hollywood's top venture capitalists, a power broker known for backing elite brands, celebrity startups, and disruptive media projects. On paper, it's a clever move. Meghan's brand, after all, has always been about empowerment and visibility. But Tom Bower isn't buying it. In his latest interview, he describes Meghan's partnership as opportunistic, claiming she's using big money alliances to stay relevant in an industry that's starting to move on. Bower says this isn't about business, it's about control. Control over her narrative, her reputation, and, of course, her financial independence from the royal family. For years, Meghan and Harry have tried to brand themselves as humanitarian entrepreneurs. But behind the smiles, their empire is crumbling. Spotify pulled the plug, Netflix is reportedly demanding more royal content, and their public image has taken blow after blow. So when Meghan suddenly pops up in Hollywood's investment circles, critics like Tom Bower call it what it is: survival. A desperate attempt to rebuild their fortune and influence. Even more telling, the timing. This partnership comes right after reports that the Sussexes' popularity in America has reached a new low. Their star power is fading, and Hollywood doesn't forget easily. Bauer describes Meghan's strategy as a high-stakes PR gamble. If it works, she could relaunch herself as a billionaire business icon. If it fails, it's the end of the Sussex brand as we know it.
But you think this is about the couple saying, we know that this is peak money-making time. We want to be able to maintain this new lavish lifestyle for the rest of our lives, so we have to make a lot of money and fast. And maybe someone like Getty, who Meghan was apparently meeting up with, maybe she's going to get advice from him on
Well,
that.
not really advice and money, but I mean, you know, what's terrible for the Sussexes is they haven't got really that much money compared to the other A-listers. I mean, if they've got $20 or $30 million amongst the A-listers who are billionaires, that is just a day's or a year's expenditure on food and living.
So they want more.
So, of course, they're poor compared to their neighbours. And Meghan feels that more than anything. That is, after all, why she was so dissatisfied with Frogmore. She wanted a palace, not 5 cottages knocked into a sort of small home in Windsor. So she's really looking for the big time. The question is whether Harry appreciates that, whether he really wants to go along that ride. Is he really so money-oriented as she is? I mean, she only sees dollars everywhere. She only sees zillions. She wants to ride in the big Cadillacs, the private jets on command. At the moment, she has to scrounge for those sort of things. So and she's on a treadmill which is fast. She wants to get there faster than tomorrow.
Let's not forget, Meghan has always craved influence. From her early days on Suits to royal life, she's mastered the art of reinvention. But this latest move feels different, colder, more calculated. Tom Bauer argues that Meghan's Hollywood power play isn't about empowerment, it's about revenge. Revenge on the British establishment that rejected her, and the royal system that she believes failed her. By aligning with top venture capitalists, she's building her own court, her own version of power, where she's the queen and money is the crown. But the irony is glaring. For someone who constantly preaches about compassion, sustainability, and authenticity, this move screams hypocrisy. Bauer says Meghan talks about lifting up women, while surrounding herself with some of the most ruthless power players in Hollywood. He doesn't see a visionary, he sees a brand built on contradictions. Tom Bauer didn't hold back. He called Meghan's partnership a symptom of her addiction to fame, claiming she's trading royal dignity for Hollywood money. Bauer also suggests that Harry, once the golden boy of the monarchy, has become a silent bystander, watching as Meghan turns their life into a series of commercial ventures. To him, Harry looks lost, a supporting actor in Meghan's ever-evolving Hollywood script.
We still haven't seen her, Tom. Is that part of the strategy?
Of course, the mystery is there. That's the great thing. And she's pretty clever. She really is. She's making herself scarce while she puts the next huge expose, the next theatre opportunity together, and then she will unveil herself.
I know, look, I want to move on to another big story, Tom. BBC Chairman Richard Sharp continues to be scrutinised over the extent of his involvement in securing Boris Johnson an £800,000 loan. And during BBC Snooze Night yesterday, establishment broadcaster Jonathan Dimbleby said that Sharp and not its army of left-wing journalists had damaged the BB's reputation as an impartial broadcaster. So, look, the BBC journalists obviously don't like Richard Sharp because he's a Tory, but you have doubts about whether Sharp should actually remain in his role.
Oh, look, I worked for the BBC for 26 years. It was in my veins. It was the most wonderful organisation to work for. Richard Sharp's time at the BBC is limited. It's not if, but when he goes. He was a rotten appointment, and looking back over past chairmen, there have been a succession of rotten appointments. He's not the first banker who's had to go. Gavin Davis, who was the Labour appointment, was forced to resign because he was no good. And there have been others too, like Richard Clementi and others, and Chris Patten, the Tory, was a dreadful chairman. It's a very difficult job, and Richard Sharp was a rotten appointment from the outset. He's a banker who hates journalists, who doesn't understand broadcasting, who thought he could impose his will and impartiality and all the rest, and actually restore some sort of equilibrium and get more right-wing views. But he doesn't understand the medium. He was a rotten appointment. He's the wrong sort of man. And the sooner he goes, the better. And to be totally true about this and candid, he was Boris's appointment, and Boris formally had wanted Charles Moore, who had been a bad appointment too, and he was doing Sharp a favour because Sharp wanted a public role. But he didn't know what he was getting into. And what really exposed him was this investigation into the lies that Martin Bashir told on behalf of Panorama to get that famous interview with Diana. When Richard Sharp appeared before the parliamentary committee answering for the BBC's shameful cover-up and lies, over 25 years, and more importantly, in the last couple of years, he completely failed to convince the committee or the BBC staff. And that was when the rot began to be sown, because he went along with what was a whitewash by a judge about what the BBC had done recently to cover up the cover-up. Because he didn't understand, because he's not political enough, because he has the banker's arrogance, and therefore he's got to go. The Tory government must now appoint somebody who understands journalism, who understands broadcasting, who has an empathy with the staff, and most important of all, who the staff respect.
So
and
your
the appearance
issue isn't that it's a political appointment, it's that Richard Sharp didn't actually have the skills required to be chairman.
Well, he was appointed by Boris as a favour, and that was a terrible mistake. And he's been exposed, because what these people never understand is they may be giants at Goldman Sachs or in the city, but once you get such a high-profile job as chairman of the BBC, then you're there for the taking by the staff if you get it wrong. And Sharp has got it majorly wrong, so he's got to go.
According to insiders, even some of Meghan's former friends and colleagues are skeptical. One source reportedly said, "Every move Meghan makes has an agenda. It's never just business, it's personal." To Bauer, this isn't a comeback. It's another PR illusion, another attempt to cling to a spotlight that's slipping away. So, where does Meghan go from here? She's burned bridges in the UK, lost credibility with the media, and faces growing fatigue in the US market. The only place left to go is deeper into Hollywood's power web. But that comes at a price. The same investors lifting her up now could turn on her tomorrow. And when that happens, Meghan may find herself isolated once again. Except this time, there's no palace to retreat to. As Bauer said, Hollywood loves a comeback story, but it hates a fraud. The question now is, which one will Meghan become? Meghan's rise has been dramatic, but her fall could be historic. Tom Bauer's warning isn't just about business, it's about legacy. The Duchess who once promised authenticity may be losing the very soul that made her relatable. Is Meghan building an empire, or burying her reputation beneath another layer of Hollywood gloss? Tell me what you think. Is this Meghan's next masterstroke, or the beginning of her final act? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more fearless royal analysis and hard truths behind the palace curtain.